Welcome to Tripod, our travel retail themed podcast series in association with the SEVA Group. I'm Martin Moodie.
I'm Roger Jackson.
Roger, great to be with you again. My big talking point over the last few days, I think, was the Heinemann annual media conference. I thought it was a really impressive event, held virtually this year because of the pandemic, but with some really interesting findings, brilliantly articulated at the top table by the senior management team led by Max Heinemann. I thought it was one of the most impressive showings and encouraging showings that I've seen from a travel retailer in recent times. What did you take out of it?
Martin, very similar. I think Max is always very articulate. He's obviously an intelligent guy, and I think he's doing a really, really good job as they move to the next generation with the family ownership. I think what I took from it is to see that their bold ambition of getting back to 75% of revenues this year is great versus 2019, especially when you compare that of having no Chinese and most of Asia, let's be frank, at the moment aren't traveling, which, given their locations, especially their exposure in Sydney, that is going to, and they've got business in Asia as well. They've got quite a big business in Asia. I think that's really promising, quite exciting for our industry, actually. I think the fact that they aren't losing money anymore is really, really important. And when I say that, obviously, I'm pleased for them as a family and as a business, but the message it sends for our industry that one of our top 5 retailers is in that position, I think is really, really important. Because whilst people are traveling again, obviously not at 2019 levels at this point, the important thing is that we've got sustainable business models with our retailers. And I think to hear from one of the top 5, to put that out there in the way that Max did, so transparently, I think it's really important. I think it gives us a lot of hope, and I think it gives us a real clear direction that we're getting to the right place. Most people I talk to now, CEOs, general managers, vice presidents of all the retailers that I talk to, they're all talking about mid-2023. And I think Heinemann's comments, Max's comments suggest that that they're in the same place. So very positive for the industry, and I think we've all got everything crossed that we're going to be in that situation.
Yeah, and let's remember, besides the Chinese, Roger, the Heinemann portfolio gets a lot of business historically from the Russian traveler, from the Ukrainian traveler, and of course business in Russia and Ukraine, and that, for the reasons we know, has been taken away as well. So take that out of the equation and the Chinese out of the equation, and having a goal like 75%, an achievable goal, they're pretty determined about this, I think is good news, as you say. So
Martin, so to interrupt, one thing I should point out as well, Heinemann's support of Ukraine, given their position, fantastic. Big kudos to those guys as well. I saw that, didn't see too much comment about it, but look, I'm in a position to be able to comment on it, and huge kudos to the Heinemann family for their support they're showing to Ukraine as well.
Yeah, indeed, well said. Well, with no further ado, Roger, we've had some terrific guests on Tripod today, and we're maintaining that tradition very much so today. Shall we bring in our special guest?
I think we should, yeah. Let's bring him in.
So this episode's special guest is Tim Young, a veteran, youthful veteran, I would point out, of the drinks and travel retail sectors. Tim entered the business way back in 1987 with a UK wine company called Three Quires. I say way back because that's the very same year I entered the travel retail world, and that sure feels way back. In the intervening years, Tim has enjoyed a stellar career in both local markets and travel retail with 2 big multinationals, Seagram, hands up if you remember them, and from 2002 to early 2021 with Brown-Forman. Since then, Tim has set up his own enterprise called Young Spirit Consulting, which is designed to help premium beverage businesses and brands unlock sustainable and meaningful growth. Tim is one of the good guys of the travel retail community. He's universally liked and admired and respected, and always willing, I think, to help others. Tim Young, welcome to Tripod.
Thank you, Martin. It's great to have the opportunity to chat with Roger and yourself this morning. I've been following the Tripod series closely. You've had some amazing guests, and quite frankly, I feel very honoured to be a guest myself.
Well, we are honoured to have you with us, Tim, especially as offline we learned that you're a little croaky today because you've had a nasty dose of that horrible virus that's been following our world around and our channel around and doing its best to wreck it for the past 27 months. Well, we're glad to know that hasn't wrecked you and you're coming right. So thanks for being so stoical and being with us today. And I'm going to hand over to my fellow co-host, Roger Jackson.
Hi, Tim. Great to see you.
Hi, Roger.
I was just saying to Martin before we actually went live, we haven't actually known. He asked me how long I'd known you, Tim, and I said, actually, whilst I've known of you many years, over a decade, I've only really got to know you properly in the last 2 or 3 years when we've obviously been working together. So I said to Martin, it's one of my big regrets. We didn't know each other before, but obviously great. We can now hopefully spend many years ahead. Talking about the years, I guess, where did it all start for you? We always go back to early life. Who were your key influences, and where it all started? So take us back to where it all started, if that's okay, Tim.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I would say. First of all, it was sort of growing up. I grew up in a city called Gloucester in the west of England. Was really lucky, had a great childhood. My father worked for British Rail at the time, and he got free rail tickets. So every time we went off on holiday, we always went by train. And he loved planning. He loved spending a big part of the year just planning our summer holiday. And we went off all over Europe. Most of the time involved sleeping on a train to get somewhere, and it really sort of instilled a love for travel. And it's sort of remarkable when I think about it, but I just went everywhere by train. And it wasn't actually until I was 25, believe it or not, 25 was the first time I got on an airplane, which is, tell my kids that these days, they can't believe it. But obviously that, from 25 onwards, then it was sort of non-stop. So that was a really, so that instilled my love for travel. I spent many summer holiday interrailing across Europe, again, obviously by train. So there was that sort of moment. I think the next bit, if I could, was sort of just the university days. I've sort of always had a philosophy, which is enjoy what you do. Do what you enjoy. And at school, I really enjoyed geography. And I went off to university and I did a geography degree, which sort of, I guess you could say, sort of left my options open about what to do. During my summer holidays and Christmas breaks, I worked at Obbins, a wine merchants in the UK, who coincidentally were owned by Seagram. I didn't know that at the time when I was working for them. And that sort of instilled a bit of a love for wine and spirits for me. And sort of, I guess, combined with my geography degree, my thesis I wrote on why vineyards were located where they were in England. And that gave me some contacts into the English vineyard community. I had a choice, basically. I either could have become a statistician working for the UK government, or I was offered a job at Three Choirs Vineyard, the vineyard you mentioned, Martin, as a sales and marketing manager. And it's funny, isn't it, how you get these two different roads that open up in front of you, sometimes more than two roads. And I had to make a choice. And who knows where the statistician job would have taken me, but I can pretty much guarantee it wouldn't have been as fun as the wine and spirit road that I went down.
I guess more than 30 years in wines and spirits, as you said, Tim. What would you say were the one or two biggest highlights of that journey? What are the standout memories?
Yeah, there are so many, Roger. I feel very blessed that I have had so many memories. Working for 13 years for Seagram, and then 19 years for Brown-Forman. Sometimes we sort of think about that. It's hard to know where. It's not hard to know where to start. It's hard to know where to stop. And isn't that wonderful? I look back to my early days, and at Seagram, I joined in 1990, and I spent 13 really happy years there. 11 in the UK domestic market. Probably a sort of standout for me there was I had a role where I was looking after leading the UK on-premise sales team, and used to really enjoy going out for a day with one of the team, calling on pubs. We were working on brands like Martell, Captain Morgan, the Glenlivet, so really wonderful big brands in the UK. And we would go into working men's clubs, and I would be there suited and booted, because that was what you needed to look like and wear in those times. And I think it's the classic example. You'd walk into a working men's club in Liverpool, and everybody would look at you because they thought you were from the police. So we had some fun, and we had some good successes. But I always had sort of this real, after 11 years in the domestic market, combined with my love of travel, I had this sort of urge to sort of see how could I get an international role? How could I move beyond the UK borders? And I sort of heard about this this thing called duty free and travel retail, but didn't quite know what it was. It sounded really good, great opportunity, go to airports around the world, talk to a few people. It looked very glamorous, and I had a couple of attempts actually at moving into duty free. I think it was on my second attempt that I was offered a role, working with Mike Hill and Dan Daly at the time in Seagram. And it was a short spell before Seagram disbanded, but it was a really good couple of years, really sort of focusing on Europe. It was just after abolition, Martin. I remember at the time, one of the first things I did, before the interview, was I was sort of like scouring the trade press, trying to figure out what was going on, because it was quite an unknown area for me at the time. This abolition of duty free, we were sort of in those stages of trying to figure out what that. I came in slightly after that because it was 2000, but it was sort of trying to figure out pricing, and you're going through Heathrow and you had green tickets and blue tickets, and what brands went on which ticket, so that who could buy what. So there was a lot of education, a lot of trying to understand what was happening. But yeah, there were fantastic. That was a fantastic opportunity to be working in the Channel, and then it went from there.
Yeah, I remember those days well, and you've spoken about some great names in the business. Dan Daly, of course, he was a powerhouse in the business, running Seagram. They were hugely influential. And Dan's suite, and I think it was at the Carlton, or it might have been the Majestic, every year, you'll remember. I mean, he had the who's who of the industry every year there in Cannes. And then, of course, it seemed like the end of the world, didn't it? Intra-EU abolition, how the heck is our industry going to adapt? But it did. It changed a lot of things, but it also changed some things for the better. And it did show that there was plenty of life in what came to, I suppose, Tim, around that term, that came to be known as travel retail. I think that was about the time that term really came into use in our industry.
It really was, Martin. I was sort of thinking back, I can't recall at the time having, that it sparked a lot of innovation because, the industry had to adapt. They had to become more creative. We had to become more creative. We had to think about the portfolio differently and what to do. For example, travel retail exclusives. Now, how can you offer something more special to the traveller? I think it sparked a lot more creativity in terms of display. There was some great stuff happening before that. I remember sort of with Absolute having a big fish tank. I think it was in Heathrow T4. That was a great sort of display piece that we put in there. But I think it was interesting after that to see how quickly the creativity side really sort of kicked in. And, probably for me also thinking back just how important it was, the people in the stores, having brand ambassadors explaining to customers, shoppers what they could buy, guiding them. Some of those things became so critical.
And let's roll forward from abolition times. And I sorry, it would be remiss of me not to comment on somebody you did mention. May he rest in peace. That was Mike Hill, who was a good colleague of yours and did a great job in the channel and sadly passed quite recently. I liked Mike very much. He was a good friend of mine. But let's roll forward to this century and your new role and your new company. You went to Brown-Forman, but you certainly didn't walk away from this channel that you'd come to love. So maybe pick out some standouts. It's hard to sum up 19 years in a few moments, isn't it? But maybe pick out some cherries on the cake for us.
Yeah, it's a great cherries on the cake. It's a good way of putting it, Martin. 19, very happy years at Brown-Forman. Some great experiences. 14 years in GTR, but always involved really in GTR. I was interested, and when I then moved into some domestic roles, travel retail played a big part in my thinking of what I was doing. I guess if I sort of thought real cherries on the cake, exciting things that I was involved in, one was, and projects that you would both know really well, Jack's Bar and Grill in Dubai Airport. Working, I was part of a team. It wasn't me at all, but I was working with the Brown-Forman team, MMI, Emirates Leisure Retail. And for me, that was a real sort of, I never forget that and what a brilliant, in my view, outcome we had with a superb brand experience in the busiest airport in the world, working with great partners. So that was a pretty standout. It wasn't the only thing that I was able to help with. We put a Jack Daniel's shop into Las Vegas Airport with Nuance, and had a standalone store in Houston as well. So there were some great things that we were able to do from the brand experience and a retail point of view. I think sort of some of the other brand launches as well. I launched Jack Daniel's Honey, Jack Daniel's Gold, Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select into travel retail. And then we're sort of moving on. Yeah, my experience working in some emerging markets in marketing and commercial roles. I had a year leading Brown-Forman's India business, which was an awesome opportunity, learning about that complex but wonderful market, which of course is a market where duty-free or travel retail, I should say, is really important as well. And then the last 4 years at Brown-Forman, having the privilege to lead Brown-Forman's Africa business. and that was the whole continent. Again, as I said earlier, not forgetting the importance of travel retail, and Roger knows this really well as well from his Africa experience. He's lots of opportunities in Africa that are growing to connect with travellers, whether they're travelling by air or across borders. And what a wonderful continent to be working in, frankly. Lots of opportunities there.
I think, Tim, you spoke about obviously your roles, you spoke about some people, but if you had to pick one or two key influences, I know we spoke about your father before we started, but who would you class as maybe one or two influences who really impacted your career and being really great stakeholders for you?
Well, if you may indulge me a little bit, Roger, I'll give you sort of answer that question by giving you the name of one person and a more sort of life event, I would call it, that influenced me. So not a person, but an event. I think it's really hard to pick out one person when you've worked in an industry with such brilliant people, whether it's people that have been in my team, that have been my managers, or even people outside of the business, customers, suppliers. So I was sort of thinking, as I sort of reflected in the past about this. Unfortunately, it's a gentleman also, Martin, who unfortunately is no longer with us, but somebody who did have a profound influence on me, and that was Patrick Moran. And you will remember Patrick,
really well.
Of course, really well. Martin and I had the privilege of working with Patrick when I joined Brown-Forman, and he taught me a lot. I mean, he was a true gentleman, full of wisdom, very passionate about the travel retail industry. He taught me a lot about the importance of work-life balance. And not through very passionate, both very passionate about what we did, but the importance of, especially when you're traveling so much, thinking about what's happening at home. He also taught me that it's not what you do, but how you do it that's really important. And I sort of knew that, but he reinforced that with me, and he was a great role model in how he did things. And also, I suppose the other element that I remember very, very fondly is the times that I travelled with him. So I travelled the first time to Hong Kong, New Zealand, and Australia with him on a wonderful trip, and he lived in Hong Kong. He showed me around. We had some fun, and he was great at that. So I guess if I think about one person, and he really sort of was an anchor for me in travel retail. So we'll always remember Patrick, and miss his words of wisdom and the opportunity to pick up the phone and talk to him. The other thing was, I said it was a life event, and I won't go into it in too much detail, but unfortunately, a couple of years ago, I had a bad accident. It was in Cape Town. I was there on business, and I enjoy cycling, and I was with my distributor, and we were cycling in the Table Mountain Range, and I unfortunately fell off the bike I was on very heavily, and cut a long story short, ended up in intensive care in a Cape Town or hospital for a week, and then another week in hospital, and it was quite serious, and that was a moment that changed me. Actually, it changed me because, well, jokingly, I sort of say it changed me because I realized I don't bounce anymore, and if I fall over, I'm going to hit the ground pretty heavily. So it reminded me of just how important it is to live life to the full, because you never know what's around the corner. But I think it gave me some really important lessons in terms of my business life and my leadership of the business. It taught me the importance of vulnerability and humility in leadership. It made me realize what an amazing team of people I had down there. And they know who they are. And if they listen to this, I mean, they were incredible. They rallied around. They supported my wife and I. And I bounced back, and I'm fine now. But it was a real sort of changing point for me in terms of reflecting, thinking about myself and what I enjoyed doing, but also realizing, sometimes as a leader, you don't always need to be seen as the big and strong one. Sometimes humility and vulnerability is really important as well.
Yeah. Wow, Tim, those are extraordinarily strong stories. And just going back to the first of them, Patrick Moran, yes, I knew him very well. He took me under his wing when, believe it or not, I was a young journalist. You probably don't imagine I was ever a young journalist, but he was a quintessential gentleman, very witty, very, very charming, but he could be quite dangerous company over a bottle or two of red wine. And I've had a few hangovers to tell the tale, but a great man, very scary experience to have a life-endangering moment or moments as you did it when you're overseas, and many of us in the industry that will resound with, because we do travel a lot and we are vulnerable by definition if something goes wrong, and it's quite some story.
It was, Martin. But as I said, I'm here to tell the story, and that's the most important thing.
It is indeed. And let's tell a good bit of the story now, which is how you have started up your own company. You're a brave man. It takes a brave man or woman to start a company. It takes a lot of luck and good fortune and blood, sweat, and tears to keep a company going. But you've started your own company. Tell us about Young Spirit Consulting.
Thank you, Martin. I set up Young Spirit Consulting. I can't believe it. It was last April. It's been a year. And first of all, I thought all about the name, and I thought Young Spirit sounded pretty good, and it sort of represents what I'm about. Not just a pun with my name, but probably a little bit of my philosophy as well in terms of energy. And you were very kind in the beginning, mentioning youthful, Martin. I don't know if I always feel that. But I have it in my company name, which is good. Really, sort of two strands that I really wanted to focus on with Young Spirit Consulting. One was helping people develop and grow, and the other side was helping brands and businesses grow. From a people side, last year I spent three months training to be an executive coach, and I qualified, and I'm now an accredited executive coach. And part of that was the realization that I've always really enjoyed helping people develop, grow, become better versions of themselves. And I'm really enjoying the executive coaching that I'm doing. The other side of the business is to helping spirit brands develop their business in global travel retail and also Africa with commercial and marketing support. I'm lucky at the moment to be working with two amazing brands. One is a brand that you will both know very well, Tito's Vodka. I'm doing some work with Tito's, helping them to develop their business across Africa, both domestically and travel retail. And then the other brand is Equiano rum. And Martin, thank you, because I know Equiano was featured as the first rum in your new series of the Rum Diaries, to really sort of highlight this amazing category that I think not so many people know much about. What it sort of came about, and it's a really, it's fantastic that I had the opportunity with Equiano to partner with Gary Maxwell, another really well-known and respected person in the industry. Gary has his own business called GMAX Travel Retail. So Gary and I have joined forces on Equiano. We were in Florida together, and at the IAADFS Summit of the Americas, we had a really positive reaction to the brand. There. For those people who don't know, it's the first blend of African and the first rum that's a blend of African and Caribbean rum. And and we're really excited about developing that product, that brand in travel retail. I'm always happy to chat with brand owners, give advice, and see how I might help, of course. There's a couple of other things that you may know. Well, I think both of you know that I do a little bit. I dabble in writing, Martin. Not that well, I don't think. But I was offered the opportunity to write a monthly column in the Global Drinks Intel on emerging market and global travel retail topics, and I've enjoyed that, and I'm continuing to do that. The other thing that you wouldn't know is that I'm also involved in a startup business at the very early stages, working together with there's 7 founders. I'm one of them. We've called ourselves ROCO Brands. It stands for Royal County Brands because 2 of our founders are based in Windsor. And we're putting together or creating our own premium spirit brands, each with a really strong point of difference. Not a lot more than I can say about that at this stage, but just to put it on the radar screen, I'm very, very hopeful that at some point very soon I'll be able to say more and actually show you both a brand that ROCO has created. But we're all spirits industry people with lots of experience. So sort of we figure that we stand as good a chance as anyone else to do something. So doing that as well, and that's really fun. I suppose it goes back to what I said earlier. It's about doing what you enjoy and having some fun on the way. And I'm certainly feel like I've got that in my sort of in what I'm doing at the moment.
Oh, great stuff, Tim. I mean, that's really good progress since last April. Fantastic, and some great brands in there, Tito's, and we do a lot of work with John McDonnell over there, and he walks and talks the product. He's a kind of evangelist, I think, in our business for brands, and gosh, he's got energy. And then Gary, of course, if you could bottle Gary's energy and sell it as a fragrance and spray it over our industry, we'd double sales overnight. He's an amazing guy.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. Yeah, and it's great to be working with. I mean, the industry is about people, isn't it? And we've mentioned a few people already in our conversation today, but it's a great example that. I think you were asking about memories from the past, and I think a lot of them revolve around people that I've worked with, and the relationships that have been built. So, and then John is another great example. John, I remember we worked together at Seagram as well. So,
well, good stuff. Well, I don't know about the journalism; the pay is lousy, Tim, but you're being very modest. I read your article recently in Global Drinks Intel, run by a friend of mine, Alex Smith, and you did a great piece on travel retail exclusives. And anyone who's interested in that concept, I recommend that article. Well, Tim, I think we've had a fascinating glimpse into your life and your love of travel, coming out of being a geography fan of geography and of trains. So it was always going to head towards a market like ours, I think. So we're going to take you on a bit of travel now. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to hand over to Roger, but you know from watching previous episodes that we take all our guests a special treat out to our resident tripod duty-free island, desert island, but with duty-free rights, of course, and give them a few creature comforts. So, Roger, shall we take Tim over to our island?
I think he deserves it after the 12 months he's had. So you're on the island now, Tim. So welcome to the island. Before you get to the island, you can bring one duty-free item with you. If you need two, because of some of the people you represent, maybe we'll make it two. But what would you bring, and I guess why?
I probably need more than two, Roger, because of the guests that I might want to have on the island. But it's definitely. I mean, as soon as I go into an airport, the first place I go to is the liquor store. So it's got to be a really nice bottle, several bottles of something really special, and premium spirit brands. Whether that's whiskey, whether it's vodka, rum, cognac. I would, quite frankly, I would wait to see what the retailer has to offer me, and choose there and then. I'm not going to name a brand, but it would definitely be a bottle of premium, something very premium and special.
Not a mix of rum, of African and South American.
Definitely, that would be a go-to. I might already have one of those in my bag though.
That's true.
So I would definitely. It could also, you say Equiano, absolutely. It could also be a really nice bottle of, Sinatra Select. Hey, I love that brand. That would be a real treat. Or it could be a nice bottle of, or it could be a bottle of Tito's. So, yeah.
Right. I guess to go along with the alcohol you've purchased, we also offer you some music, either an album or a song. What would you pick and why?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, there's so many different bands that I like. I think the one that I would go to would be Queen and just their greatest hits. It's an album that over the years I've played over and over again, and it doesn't stop putting a smile on my face, and I love singing along to it. So yeah, it would have to be that.
Freddie fan.
And I was very lucky to see them at Wembley.
Oh wow.
So I would go for that. I mean, it's sort of I could just play it and play it. I love playing it in the car, and I think on an island it would just put me in the right mood. Great.
And then one book or piece of reading to go along with your music and your alcohol that you've bought from duty free.
Yeah, the book is probably would be a bit more serious, and it's a book that's really inspired me. And I'd recommend it to any business leader. It's a book called Time to Think by Nancy Klein. And it's a lot more of I would say, coaching focused book, but it really is, for me, had been sort of quite inspirational in thinking about how to work with people, sort of the danger of making assumptions and how limiting they can be, and how you can break down those assumptions and free them to create possibilities and find opportunities. So it's a great book. I read it a few times as part of my coaching course and my thinking, and continue to dip into it. And I can read it again. Actually, I always learn something new from it. So yeah, that would be a book that I would take.
Good. And then finally from me, I think Martin's then got something very, very nice for you after this. But as in terms of a dinner on the island, you can pick yourself and 3 guests, can be historical or living, your choice. Who would you have around the table for a special desert island dinner?
Right. Well, I would invite Elton John, and I'd ask him to bring his piano. I'd invite Freddie Mercury, and I'd invite Brandon Flowers from the Killers.
Wow.
And we would have a damn good sing-song.
I was going to say, you're after a free concert, aren't you, Tiff?
and I would love to hear. First of all, it would be fascinating what they'd all say to one another, but it would be fascinating to hear their stories. And not only that, but I think they're brilliant artists. And I guess the sort of thinking there would be, I wouldn't necessarily be looking for something that serious. It would just be to really sort of have some fun, hopefully, and have some good music.
I think you'd definitely have that. I think you'd definitely have that, especially with the alcohol you've picked as well.
Yeah. I'm not so sure you'd want to leave that desert island, Tim, with all that fun and some great spirits and great reading, great music and great company. But leave it, you are going to have to. But it's not going to be that harsh, because we are going to take you as our thanks for being on the island and on this program to anywhere in the world. You've got a choice of destination on your bucket list. What would number 1 be and why?
Yeah, I wish you told me that I could choose 2 places, Martin, but I know I can only choose 1. So I'm going to go for Cape Town. And I'm going to Cape Town because it holds so many memories, fond memories for me. I think it's a beautiful place. I think the people are wonderful, but also because I just have some great friends there that mean a lot to me and to my wife as well. And I would keep it as simple as that. There's other places in the world that I've been that would be very close, but Cape Town would just like top it.
A special place with a special reasons. So
great, absolutely,
great choice. Well, Tim, you're our first guest, I must say, who's come on the show with COVID. Roger and I have talked about COVID together with our guests throughout every program, and but to have a live patient in front of us doing rather well, I'm happy to say, is quite encouraging for us, because so many of us will run into this damn virus in some way or another. So thanks for being with us today. It's been a fun chat. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have. It's actually been a great tonic. I feel, I feel good, and I really enjoyed it. It's always a pleasure to see you both. And as I said at the beginning, thank you. I feel very honoured to have been able to share some of my experiences and to talk about my new business venture with both of you.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we'll do. Thanks, Roger.
We wish you really well with Young Spirit Consulting, Tim. Thanks for being on the show, and take good care. Get well soon.
I will. Thanks, Martin.
Well, Roger, Tim Young, what a nice guy. What an intelligent guy who spoke, I thought, very warmly, sometimes emotionally, very powerfully about the things that have shaped his life and career. I thought it was a terrific chat.
Yeah, it really was. I think, we talk about legacy too easily, I think, in the modern day. And Tim's legacy is every single person I speak to about Tim, they all say the same thing. Oh, he helped me. He supported me. Oh, he did this for me. He's just one of those guys, Martin, that and he's helped me, to cards on the table. He's helped me as well, and I think he's just one of those people that goes in with pure positive intent into things. And he shared his story about Cape Town, which I'm really glad he did. He shared it with me a few months ago, and I didn't want to ask him to share it on the podcast because obviously it's very personal. And he obviously only gave a very brief synopsis of, what happened. But, Tim, it was very touch and go for Tim. And for the way he's bounced back from that and the way he is, you've seen what he's achieved in his own business within 12 months. It's just spectacular. So I've not got a bad word to say about Tim. Nobody has a bad word to say about Tim. And he's just one of those really, really good guys of our industry. And even talking about him now brings a smile on my face because he is just a great guy. And it was great to have him on the podcast.
It was indeed a great show. Well, we'll look forward to another special guest next time around. But ladies and gentlemen, for now, it's Martin Moodie signing off. See you next time.
See you next week.